Daily Dose of Recovery. I'm your host, the Hype Man, Jay Barnard, also the CEO and founder of the Empower to Recover Foundation. And today we have a local to Kenora, which is massively exciting to have a local to Kenora, Wyntar Fontaine. Did I say that right? That right? Wyntar Fontaine. Hey, the first name I got right. Wyntar Fontaine. Okay, so Big Bad Wyntar's coming in, and thanks for coming on the show today. So why don't you tell them a little bit about your superpower, your new superpower recovery, and how you got that. And then we'll roll into the tips, tricks, and solutions. And then I want you to leave a nugget for them on like how to, what do you use? Okay, so let's a little bit about your story, 5-7 minutes, and then tips, tricks, and solutions. Okay.
Sounds good. So hello, everyone. Like Jay was saying, my name is Wyntar Fontaine. I've known Jay for quite a while, and I'm just super excited to be here, honored and blessed to join upon the Power to Recovery experience and the way of life. So my story goes back. I'm actually sober now for 1 year and 7 months.
Woo!
587 days. No one's supposed to count. Yay. And so I had a lot of trouble with alcohol starting off at a younger age. I wanted to be the life of the party. I had low self-esteem, and alcohol just gave me confidence and broke the ice in my world. And it just took off from there. And, as growing up into adulthood and having children of my own, I wanted the best of both worlds. I wanted to be a mom and raise my kids and be a wife, but I also wanted the party world too. And going into it, you definitely can't have both the best worlds when it comes to alcohol. It is a disease. I come to learn a long time ago that, abstinence is the best thing for my life. So, my life became quite unmanageable. Mental health, depression, it just turned into my crutch. I didn't know how to handle stress at all. So I would have to say over the year and 7 months that I've been sober, I have done a lot of healing because I've been through a lot of loss and trauma that I had to learn. I had to learn how to.
Yeah, touch on that a little bit because a lot of people in the world today are going through a lot of grief. Just myself. I went through a lot of grief in the last 7 or 8 months. Business, relationships, traveling. Just loss is a common thing, and grief is a common thing. And I don't think it's really talked about enough. And a lot of people kind of keep it inside. And I think that really. Is one anchor to why their unresolved trauma never gets unresolved, right? Because it's unresolved trauma that leads to mental health issues and leads to addiction issues, which can come in all forms, shapes, and sizes. You know what I'm saying? So in the way I look at things, nobody's an alcoholic or an addict. I ate 6 bananas today. Does that make me a bananaholic? I don't think so. Nobody would run around saying Jay's a bananaholic because he had 6 bananas. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, right? So talk a little bit about the grief. How have you been able to work through the grief, and how have you been able to process it?
So like I was saying, before sobriety, I managed my stress with coffee, large amounts of alcohol, and drugs. And obviously that wasn't helping my life at all. So since I jumped on the sobriety train, I now manage my stress with just being aware of my surroundings. A lot of it I find is adjusting my perception on the way I look at things. I engage in a lot of self-reflection and a lot of self-care. So I be gentle with myself, and I just constantly try to keep myself on a positive level. So I like to shift my brain every morning when I wake up with prayer, and I thank the Lord that I am here on this earth another day and that I'm sober, because my life before was just a mess. And so what I did with that is just I did a lot of counseling, and I seeked help with a lot of support groups and networks just to deal with the grief and loss. But a lot of it was just gently being kind to myself and learning my flaws. And once I got to know myself and the things, I started to be able to deal with stress on another level. So a lot of self-care and self-positivity. So I do a lot of self-affirmation cards. I do a lot of social media. I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is I find a quote that I love. and I just make my coffee and I start my day that way. And having a positive brain when you wake up sets your day. It sets my day. So a lot of adjusting my perception on the way I think, life is very precious, and people are here and then people go, and it does suck. And I have to say, like, it took me a lot to realize that dealing with grief and loss isn't at the end of a bottle.
Mm. Yeah, well, you can't get to the feelings, right? Like, that's the issue at hand, is that that unresolved trauma that comes from that grief and that loss. If you're constantly trying to cope with it at the bottom of the bottle or at the end of whatever you're doing, you can never get to it, right? So then you're never able to process it, and you're never able to actually get to a point where you can accept and forgive. Because a lot of the time for grief and loss, a lot of people blame themselves. So a lot of people will blame themselves for another individual passing. Did I spend enough time with them? Did I do this? Did I do that right? Did I have this? What did I do? Why did this come? And it loss is a part of life. We come into this life, we leave this life, and that's just like the honest to God. Those are the two guarantees in life, along with taxes. But at the end of the day, we have to figure out how we can work through it and process it, right? So on the tips, tricks, and solutions side of things, I know you talked about meditation, but like early on in recovery, because you essentially have early recovery right now, you're in 7 months, right? So at the end of the day, like, so in early recovery, like, how did you manage to, like,
get through it?
Yeah.
So my early recovery was, my number one rule was a very, very difficult challenge for me. It was avoiding negative situations and risky environments at all possible. So when I accepted that I had a drinking problem and I came to acceptance with it, I realized that my life has to change, and that means a lot of things with it. So I started avoiding negative situations. I stayed away from risky environments where I thought I would, crack. And that did really good for me because I found other things to do. I found distractions. And a lot of the times I had to force those distractions. So again, I picked up a few hobbies actually that I haven't done in years. I used to draw and paint, and I used to play musical instruments. And so I've actually got back into that. I just dove right in, and that really helped my distraction with feeling lonely or missing out or wanting to go be in that social life.
So the negative situations and places that you avoided were what?
Bars, nightclubs. I really had a hard time in the beginning, even going to restaurants where they had big bars at their restaurant, like at Casey's Bar and Grill. As soon as I walked in the door to go for dinner there, just little triggers. And I thought, I have to admit, I had to go into a little bit of isolation, but it wasn't a bad thing for me because I am such a positive person that I wanted to find other things that used to make me happy. Like I said, drawing, painting, picking up a hobby. A lot of it was a lot of self-care. So I was just making sure if I was going to start this journey, I was going to kick off to a right foot. I was going to start eating healthy. I was going to start getting some exercise in my life.
Active lifestyle and nutrition is like one of the things that all of us lack when we're in the unresolved trauma loop. And, so that's interesting that you talked about going back to some hobbies that you used to have, but those hobbies kind of got put on the back burner because you got too consumed with how to kill your pain. And now you bring in this new stuff, which helps you actually soothe the pain and process you through your recovery, which is massively exciting. Negative situations, is that like relationships, or is that like people? Is that like places? Is that like jobs? Is that like boss? I think you work for yourself, so you're your own boss, so you only have to answer to you. So that's pretty cool. But at the end of the day, it's like, the negative situations where, what was it like? You were jumping from relationship to relationship because you didn't know Wyntar, or was it like, people were like, hey, Wyntar, do you want to come out with me? And they didn't really accept your recovery yet, or they didn't want to accept your recovery yet, or they want it, because some people don't understand about this. And this is what this is all about, is educating people about, what we're doing and why we're doing it. Right. So
a lot of it is pretty much all of the above. I had to, start realizing who true people were in my life. So if I was hanging around friends that were like kind of gaslighting me and stuff, I just had to step back and be like, what are these people doing for me? If they're bringing a negative impact onto my life, and I had to change that, and I just kind of distanced myself from that. And like I said, a lot of the places where there's party scenes and that, I just stayed away. Relationships. So after I lost my spouse about 15 years ago, or 2 years ago, sorry, I was with him for 15 years, and it was a big drinking lifestyle. And when he passed away, I learned how to rebuild myself, but that also meant just staying around negative people that were miserable. And I was always around people like that, and it just brought me down and stuff. And I thought, this is not who I am. So just anything negative, like I had to change. Like when I say change your lifestyle, a lot of it came with people, places, and things.
So it's interesting because the unresolved trauma lifestyle is that lifestyle, right? We stay stuck in that lifestyle. Then we try to move to recovery. We try to hold on to some of that unresolved trauma inside of that recovery to still have some of the lifestyle that we used to have. The truth of the matter is that we have to change everything in order to recover properly and be the people that we're supposed to be, right? So if there's anything that you could share with anybody that's going to watch this on what they should do to them for themselves, or how they can help themselves, or one thing that really helped you get your new superpower.
So I would have to say I have 3 superpowers. Okay. So my superpower is strength, resilience, and creativity. So what I mean, those are big words. So what I mean by that is strength was healing myself, finding self-care to heal. You have to heal before you move forward. It's one day at a time. It takes time. You're not going to get it at first. It's going to take it took me several up and downs to come through my strength, and staying positive. So when I stay positive, that brings me my strength. My second superpower was resilience. So what I mean by resilience was the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties. So back in the day, I used to, be hard on myself. I used to be my worst enemy. I used to beat myself up about everything, take the blame. I used to point fingers. I was a mess, and so the capacity to withstand, recover quickly from difficulties was, again, shifting my mindset from a negative to a positive. Finding distractions, finding good people that are going to make me, feel good about myself. But I had to really start building myself up for that. I couldn't put the responsibility on other people to make me feel good. I had to build that on my own. And then creativity. I'm a very creative person. I am actually an early years educator. So I have all the singing and dancing and music in me. So when I put my creativity into my sobriety, I could go on and on forever about it, because it just, I'm crazy in the world. I want to do everything. I want to get out in nature. I want to do walks. I want to, when I have a bath, I don't just have a regular bath. I light candles. I put Epsom salts. I make it an ambiance in there of relaxativity. And so I create a wonderland in my sobriety with my world. So I would think my superpowers would be strength, resilience, and creativity.
Woo! This is the great and talented Wyntar Fontaine, straight from Kenora, Ontario here. And go check out www.empoweredtorecover.com. Our next events are coming up in Saskatoon. And we got the second recovery day coming up here in Kenora, Ontario on September 13th, followed up by World Mental Health Day in Thunder Bay, Ontario. I am your host, Mr. J. Barnard, the Hype Man, and this was Wyntar. Bye-bye. Bye, Wyntar.
Bye. Thanks for having me.